I'm Vivek from Intel. I lead our products on disaggregated technologies. And one of the roles that I have in my team is to speak with number of end customers, whether it's enterprise customers or cloud customers, right? And one common theme that we see as we speak with the end customers is I have this awesome hardware, but my software is not optimized. Or it's the other way around, right? Is I have this optimized software. How do I make sure I have the right hardware that's part of the technology, right? In order to solve this challenge that we've been hearing from both the enterprise and the cloud customers, we partnered with Lightbits, right? Where we made sure that the software is completely optimized to get the best performance out of the hardware, right? Whether it's your CPUs, whether it's your network, or whether it's your memory or storage. Every component that's going inside the box is taken advantage of by the software, right? So there's no stack or there's no legacy stack that sits on top of it. So in order to make sure that we have a solution that solves the customer challenges that we're hearing of telling, give me an optimized solution where I get the benefit of both the hardware and the software aspect, a partnership with Lightbits and making sure that the right software optimizations is done was very critical, right? And I'll go through, some of the use cases of how each one of these components are optimized to get the best performance out of it. We see three key pillars when we have these discussions with customers. One is around flexibility. The customers ask on how can I make sure that the infrastructure that I have currently is not rip and replaced with a totally new infrastructure, but I can still continue with the network or the infrastructure that I have in the data center, right? And the NVMe or TCP architecture that we have today gives you that flexibility where you have your TCP network, you don't need to replace the whole infrastructure, and you can get the best performance and solve the challenge that you have in the data center. The other aspect is around performance, right? If I look at the performance aspect, like I had mentioned, the optimizations, making sure that the best performance from the CPUs, from the network, the memory and the storage is completely taken, right? So your overall dollar per gigabyte or the dollar per performance is completely got from the solution that you have, right? And that leads to the overall TCO, whether it's the CapEx or the OpEx investment that you do in these solutions, right? Purely from a CapEx perspective, like Amir had mentioned, you scale your compute and storage as needed. You don't need to do a whole lot of CapEx investment in one go, right? And that gives a lot of flexibility to customers. And from an OpEx perspective, it's a single management interface. So there's a lot of flexibility on, making sure that the single management across both the enterprise use case that you have and the cloud that Amir is going to talk about has an easy access point, right? Now let me focus on the performance aspects of how each one of these Intel components plays a part in the solution. We'll start with the CPUs. One of the key things that we did with Lightbits is around optimizing the Lightbits software stack to make sure the Ice Lake platform or the Xeon 3rd Gen platform is optimized, right? And what you can see from these test results is going from your 2nd Gen Xeon to your 3rd Gen Xeon, which is the Ice Lake platform, you get up to 76 performance on a single node, right? So going from a gen over gen gives you that 76% better performance. And the reason is the software is now optimized for your CPU. How does this translate to the overall total cost of ownership for the customer? When a customer was using 8 nodes for the previous generation, now the same workload can now run in 5 nodes. So the total cost from a customer perspective is highly reduced. That's pretty significant, right? That's one good example of a gen over gen optimized software with the right CPU technology that's going in and the value that it provides to the customer. The next aspect that I wanted to focus on is around networking. We all know that Lightbits is a NVMe or TCP solution, and network plays a very important aspect in that. right? As part of the Intel network product, we have an ADQ feature. And what we've done is we enable the ADQ as part of the Lightbits deployment. And what we see by enabling ADQ is you get 30% better response time from purely from a response perspective, and there's a predictability that goes in. Your overall latency is now reduced. So think of your mission critical workloads that needs response times at a very rapid speed. Enabling ADQ gives that benefit pretty significantly, right? And from an overall throughput perspective, there's up to 70% improvement in the overall throughput, right? And this is a very important factor as far as networking goes when you try to do disaggregation, and make sure that your latency, your throughput, and your overall predictable performance meets the workload SLAs, right? And given we have disaggregation going through the network, your network architecture plays a very important role. So choosing the right hardware with the right technology becomes a critical aspect here. Okay. And the third point that I wanted to cover was around the memory. Now, if you have a deployment of the Lightbit solution with a DRAM compared to an Optane technology based solution, the performance that you get is up to 46% better performance, right? And from an overall cost perspective, you reduce the overall cost of the deployment by up to 33%. And that's pretty significant. One is your overall cost of deployment is now reduced, and the performance SLAs that you're trying to match is also matches with what you would be getting with the DRAM, right? So, and that's pretty significant. Combining all these, putting all these components together in a box, and to get the best out of the hardware with the right software optimizations is where our partnership with Lightbits plays a big value, right? And it basically translates directly to the value for the customer. And from a customer perspective, it's a total cost savings that they get for the optimized platform that goes, right? And speaking of customer, I wanted to introduce Jim from ZenLayer. ZenLayer is one of our joint customers who have deployed Lightbits as part of their infrastructure.